Hi everyone, we're getting there. On the board now you can see the next section of the assignment brief for P5M2. What we're now looking at is what happens in a recession and how this can impact on Sainsbury's. So remember, in a recession, GDP will be falling. So the output produced by businesses across the economy will be starting to go down. This will mean that unemployment's likely to be increasing, incomes are falling, business profits are falling, there's a bigger risk of businesses going bankrupt. So we're now going to be thinking about what will be happening to each of these different factors in a recession and how these will impact on Sainsbury's. Now what I've done here, I've given you some ideas of what you could be talking about in this middle column for your assignment brief. In other words, what will be happening to these different factors in a recession. You're then going to be thinking about how these will impact on the performance of Sainsbury's. So if I'm thinking first of all about GDP and incomes. In a recession, what we should know is that output or GDP is falling, and that means that incomes are starting to fall because more people are becoming unemployed. They're getting less hours through their bosses, so they're getting lower incomes. So in effect, what is happening is people are becoming poorer. Now you're then going to think about how this could affect demand and supply. Due to falling incomes, it means that people can buy less products, which means that demand is starting to fall. So people are buying less cars, they're buying less holidays, they're buying less clothing, they're going out to the cinema less. But it also means that supply will start to fall as well. Now, if demand is falling, businesses won't want to produce as much output because you don't want to be stuck with a load of stock that you can't sell. Now, if you were to think about how these can impact on Sainsbury's, if you've got falling incomes, it means that the demand for your products are starting to fall. Now, that could mean that Sainsbury's have got to respond by reducing how many staff they've got. It means their profits are falling. It could mean that they've got less customers walking through the door. So they've got a lot of stock that they're struggling to sell. Now this could mean that they've got to start closing down some of their stores or getting rid of some of their workers in order to make sure they're not overstocking what people are wanting to buy. Now a little bit of good news for Sainsbury's would be though that in a recession, because you've got higher rates of unemployment, it means that Sainsbury's might find it more simpler to find good staff to come work in their business. High levels of unemployment mean they can take their pick really of what workers they want to come work in their stores. So you might find that in a recession there's less need for Sainsbury's to increase wage rates. So they might find that some of their wage bills might start to fall. Inflation. In a recession you tend to find that inflation is starting to fall. Price levels might actually be starting to go down. If demand is falling, it means that businesses might need to lower prices to keep customers happy. But also because you've got people losing their jobs and income starting to fall, it means that people can afford to buy less goods and services anyway. So price levels might need to go down in order to keep people happy and keep people buying your products. The next one, availability of credit. Because you've got people losing their jobs and businesses starting to struggle, it will mean that credit will become more difficult to get. Banks now become a lot less keen to lend people money because there's a higher risk that people might not be able to afford to borrow money. But also, if people have got incomes falling, a lot more people become reluctant to take on board loans in the first place. Now, interest rates, remember this is the percentage cost of borrowing and the percentage return to savers. So what you might find is that in a recession, to try and get the economy growing again and get people buying more, that our country might look to reduce interest rates. If you make interest rates lower, what it will do, it will make loans more attractive because the repayments on them will go down. This might incentivize more people to want to take out loans and therefore demand more, which means that businesses again have got to supply more, which could then lead to a growth in GDP. Now, government policy, you tend to find that in a recession, governments will spend more money and they will also reduce taxes. They're trying to help everybody that is struggling because of the recession. You're at home at the moment rather than in college because of the coronavirus. This has mean that people are starting to go out less to shops, go out less to restaurants and cafes and bars, and all those local businesses are starting to struggle. People are losing their jobs. So what governments will do to protect those businesses, they will start to give them more money. They'll try to give household support by giving them more money as well, just in order to give people a bit of protection from the worst impacts of the recession. Now, on top of this, what governments might do is to say to businesses, you can pay less tax. They might reduce things like business rates or corporation tax or income taxes on households in order to help people have more income to keep themselves going throughout the recession. Now, in terms of aspirations of customers, you tend to find that in a recession, because incomes are falling and people are less confident in the economy, they will start to buy more what we call inferior products. Now think about these as the own brand products, things that are quite cheap to buy. People become a lot more conscious about what they're spending, and people want to spend less money in a recession. So you tend to find that own brand products in supermarkets will do a lot better, but it could also mean that rival supermarkets such as Aldi and Lidl might start to grow. And that is because as incomes fall and people become a lot more savvy and conscious about what they're buying, they might go to discount supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl. You might find that places like B&M and Home Bargains might start to do better. But you're also probably going to find that more high-end or luxurious supermarkets like Marks and Spencer's, Co-op, Waitrose, even Sainsbury's to a certain extent, might start to struggle as people start to move their demand towards more discount supermarket change. Now, all these different changes will have some significant impacts on Sainsbury's. It could mean that Sainsbury's will have to move their products away towards more discount brands. They might need to look to reduce how many staff they've got in store. They might have to close down some of their loss-making stores. It could mean they've got to try and lower the prices to keep customers happy. So they might need to look towards reducing their workforce to lower costs. They might need to talk to their suppliers to try and reduce costs. They might even apply to the government for tax breaks to reduce how much tax they've got to pay. And they might need to start stocking more inferior products such as home brand products in their stores. Now, hopefully that gives you enough ammunition to tackle the recession section of the assignment brief.